Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, building experiences that connect, remove friction, and deliver insights. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is my Sage colleague, Jeff Richards. Jeff is the head of training program development for Sage CRM. Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Ed, and it's good to be here. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Well, first off, Jeff, why do you do what you do?
Well, it's because I'm employed by Sage, and I'm employed by Sage to do a very fun job. It's a funny thing because I started off working largely with education, writing articles, delivering training programs, but then starting to drift into roles working much more closely with the developers. And so my role nowadays, it's evolved over the years, is not directly in education. I still do a fair amount of release-related material and training, but what most of what I'm doing is to do with the analysis of product requirements, liaising with customers and liaising with partners on product advisory councils, and then feeding that back into the development team in the creation of the roadmap. So most of my time is spent on the roadmap, explaining the roadmap, creating the roadmap, and then delivering a certain amount of blog articles and educational videos to explain it as well.
Well, then you're the person to ask this question to. Talk to me a little bit about the state of the CRM market space. I mean, it was in the early 2000s exploding really big. It's kind of morphed and changed a little bit. So what about the state of the marketplace? And then also, your perspective on how Sage CRM fits into that.
Well, I think you're right. Sage CRM or CRM as a marketplace is a very dynamic marketplace. We're still looking at across the whole of the industry growth for CRM as a product set, generalist product set rising at around about 12% per annum. Sage CRM it works within a particular niche, which is to integrate with Sage products, and actually that's our whole raison d'etre really, is that we develop our APIs, we develop our user interface, we develop our new features on the idea that we're supporting products like Sage 100, Sage 300 in North America and around the world, and Sage 200 in Europe, etc. And there are other products, and we are deliberately trying to fit the product around those needs, and so we're hitting actual new customer acquisition rates over the last 3 years in excess of 20%. So COVID, for example, was very, very good to us. It sounds terrible to say that, but in terms of what it meant for organizations needing to implement operational level systems to be able to ensure that staff were being able to work wherever they were around the world, to be able to have consistent and swift ways of communicating and ensuring everyone was following targets, then Sage CRM allowed them to do that, to bring accounting information to wherever the customers needed it. And that's been a really good set of years for us.
And talk to me a little bit about the evolution. You talk how Sage CRM is fitting into all of our product sets, but we've seen also an expansion of technology across an expansion of technology, period. And how, such as AI, for example, how is that fitting into the roadmap for Sage CRM?
Well, I've got a background. My starting point was mostly within industries around expert systems and around business rule automation. And so a lot of things which are, if you like, precursor to the revolution that we've got now, which is within generative AI. We've taken a slightly different view in the last development cycle. Rather than going down the generative approach, we've been looking at how we can make data more easily consumable by users. And one of the things that we've done for the latest release is implemented something that we're calling the company narrative. So we're looking at all the key points, if you like, the data points that describe an organization's life cycle within an organization, when they became a customer, what orders they've placed with the within the system, how long does it take to close a particular deal? How long does it take to close a particular service request? And we've started to turn that into a series of near natural language statements within a report that we're calling this Company Narrative. And it makes the data much more real. So you don't have to look through multiple screens in order to get the big picture as to what that company status is like. And in our next development cycle, we're going to be bringing in accounting information, working first of all with the Sage 300 database to bring in information into the company narrative as to tell the user when an account is on stop or what the credit limit is. Any of the information that is synchronized with Sage CRM is going to then be displayed within that context of the narrative.
And is that narrative something that is partially using generative AI to create the narrative, or is it really something more where it's a different type of technology?
No, it's a different type of technology. What we've decided on, rather than generative, which is a type of where generative runs the risk, because it wants to be plausible, because it is sounding real, it runs the risk of including not quite factual information. So what we've done is use the approach of using deterministic AI. So we always know what the outcome is going to be. We can repeat that, and it will never have a variance in the results. So because we're dealing with financial information, we want to be able to make sure that financial information is correctly reported. Because we're dealing with information about a person, we want to make sure that nothing is made up. We want factual information. Otherwise, we'd run the risk of all sorts of wrongness about the data that is entrusted to the systems within inside Sage CRM.
Yeah, hallucinating about accounting data is probably a bad idea.
It's a very bad idea to hallucinate about accounting. And it's also a horrendous idea to hallucinate about any aspects about a customer, because the whole aspect about what you need to be able to report. If a customer challenges you and says, "What do you know about me?" you have to be able to report that back exactly. And the point about a generative AI system is it's generating it on the fly. You can never know what you held about that person.
We have an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours and why are they a hero?
Well, I'd give you two heroes. Is that a cheat? These are two British divers, John Valanthan and Rick Stanton. And these two are the divers who found the boys in the Tam Luang Nong cave. And so they're the ones who lost those 12 boys who got lost in the cave, and they needed the divers to come along and rescue them. They're my heroes because they were able to work in the dark, to be able to find a path, and through trust in each other and being able to create trust in the boys, they were able to retrieve them. But they couldn't have done it on their own. They needed a team behind them, but they were nevertheless heroes. And
lastly, Jeff, how can somebody contact you?
It's very easy. You can contact me through my email address, jeff.richards@sage.com.
All right. Jeff Ritzers, Head of Training Program Development for Sage CRM. Thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Thank you very much, Ed. It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.